the Giants make the decision to move Adoree Jackson into the slot corner spot, and I think it's solely predicated on we need the best players that we can get on the field, and that can be because Deonte Banks and Tre Hawkins looked really good in camp. I think Tre Hawkins right out the gate did. I think Deonte Banks has come along nicely. I also think it's because there wasn't a lot of other options. Cordell Flott didn't jump off the page in camp. Darnay Holmes has been a disappointment these last couple of seasons. Veteran players, etc. Fine. We're here now, and our rookie cornerback is going to be
Mm-hmm.
starting on the outside, and I think that's a good thing. I,
Mm-hmm.
on tape, saw him as being maybe a little bit bigger than the way he looked in camp and being able to certainly play more physically up at the line of scrimmage. What did you see from him coming out as a prospect relative to maybe the technical things that he was struggling with early in the training camp with the Giants?
Banks is very physical, as you just said. Yes, he is. I watched him down in Maryland. I followed the Big Ten closely, so yes, he's very confident. He has good speed transition. He plays with good technique for the most part. His hip transition and opening to turn and run with a wide receiver is good. There are things he needs to clean up in terms of his footwork, understanding a little bit more in the zone concept, eye discipline, things of that nature. But he is very physical, and I love that in your cornerbacks, especially in Wink's defensive scheme. You need physical cornerbacks because what that does is that helps your defensive line. That allows your pressure. That gets the receivers off of their timing, rerouting them. So instead of just running straight where the quarterback is in practice, they get their timing down. Now he has to open up and go around or go inside. And the quarterback now holds the ball just a split second longer, which allows your edge rushers, your linebackers, your blitzers to get to the cornerback. His level of physicality allows you to do that, which is definitely what you need. And then his ability, like I said, to open and turn and run with a receiver, it's there. His recovery speed, if he
Yeah.
does get beat, he does close the gap to get there to make a play on the ball, even if he's shooting his hands in between the receiver's hands and knock the ball away or to turn his head around. So I love his game. I love his confidence, because you have to have that confidence more than anything as a cornerback because you're out there by yourself, really.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have a safety at times, but you're by yourself and you need to have that prime time attitude and mentality. I don't need the help. I got this by myself no matter what. He may beat me initially, but I'm going to recover and I'm going to get there and I'm going to make a play. So I love his game.
And that was, and he was, we were in the first round. That was the guy that I thought and wanted the Giants to be able to get. I think pleasantly surprised that he was there when the Giants were able to
Mhm.
select. When we go inside this Dallas matchup and we think about CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup, I have some assumption that Adoree Jackson is maybe still going to shadow CeeDee Lamb for big portions of this game. I think they'd like to avoid putting the rookies on an island too early with them. And there's a lot of zone schemes that I expect Wink to use as well here. But is that recovery speed enough for you to look at this matchup and say, whether it is a Lamb, whether it is a Cooks, who is just the journeyman of the NFL now and still always seems to put up big numbers, or we're confident that if he misses on those jams, because that's easily the thing in preseason that
Mhm.
I saw from him was you're not getting that jam off the line. That is still
Mhm.
something you're trying to get to. The
Mhm.
quick first step from the wide receivers was catching him off guard. But okay, if you tell me that you can recover and you can be there when it matters, I'm willing to allow for that. I worry about some of the close quarters routes. I worry about some of those slant routes right off the line. If he's not getting that jam against Dallas, we could see a lot of quick three-step drops from Dak Prescott and just finding those very easy ones. And then we're looking for the secondary to recover and help close up those gaps.
Well, in terms of the quick slants, that's one thing I wanted to, because someone else talked to me about that. And you know what? The first thing is I always look at the down and distance and the situation. So if you're telling me he's going to get a three-step drop and you're just going to pick up 3 to 5 yards during that time frame, and let's say it's a second and seven. Okay,
Mm,
yes, that changes the concept, but if he can get there and drive through and jar the ball away from the receiver, I'm
sure.
fine with that. But now here's the other thing. If he gets there and makes a play and brings the receiver down and he's physical, what you don't realize is that gets into the receiver's head.
Mm.
Eventually, he's not going to want to keep going inside on those quick slants because he's getting smacked around. So, and that's why I say I love his physical play. Yeah, he's going to get beat. Every defensive back gets beat. But
It's
if
a
you
losing
stay
battle, right?
confident,
That is a losing
yes.
prospect to be an NFL cornerback and go up against this.
But now, if you stay physical and you can get into the receiver's head, you can take away. And now he in those situations he can get alligator hands and
Mm.
alligator arms, and that's what I look for in situations like that. So now going up against a Cook, yeah, he's gonna get shook on occasions. Same thing with Hawkins. Cook is a veteran receiver. He knows how to get you turning your hips one way and attack you the other way. So that's where your recovery speed comes into play. So yes, he has to get there. He has to close it. And like I said before, shoot your hands between his hands, get your head around, make a play in the ball, and be physical with the receivers whenever they make the catch. That to me is the biggest thing because as an old school Giants fan, I remember the Bills when we played the Bills, and what was the big thing about that Bill Belichick said? Let them catch it, get physical. And what ended up happening? They started to get alligator hands. Why? Because guys were getting physical with them. And that's the thing you want, with your cornerbacks. Yeah, they're gonna make a catch. Be confident, make a play, knock the ball away from them if you can, tip the ball. We can possibly have a safety coming over, create a turnover, but best case scenario, if he catches it, you're physical and you're in his head. That's what I want to see.
No, no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say, and I think it's what you like about supplementing this defense with a Bobby
Hmm.
Okereke, right? To say, hey, when they're in the
Hmm.
middle of the field, guess who? And we saw this. I can't remember which preseason game it was. It was like watching the position for the first time in your life relative to who's played there for the Giants in recent years. Bobby Okereke didn't take a half a step back to see what was going to happen, maybe a pass play. He was a freight train up the gut of that defense, laying wood on the running back, getting pressure on the quarterback.
Hmm.
And when you open up those zone kind of schemes where he is going to drop back, I expect his short range closing speed and the power that he puts
Hmm.
behind that gang tackling to also be a part of what you're saying. That deterrent factor is I'm on your backside. I'm Deonte Banks. I'm pulling you down, and Bobby Okereke is going to be coming in and laying significant hits on you.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I expecting from this defense and to the cornerbacks, Banks, Hawkins. That's what I want. I want to see you continue to use your physicality. Don't stop using it.
And I actually think too that one of the other, just a side note here. There's two side notes. One, we won't talk about Dane Belton, but we loved him when he was drafted, and I think that he is this nice little low usage, high result oriented piece right now for Wink Martindale. That
Hmm.
situation you can come in and think about supplementing some of those big hits, and also we saw in the preseason some of those strip plays where he's clearly
Hmm.
has a very ball centric, nose for the ball kind of mentality. And I also think Adoree Jackson, he's not the biggest corner on the outside. He's not the most physical corner. But when you move him, although
Hmm.
he'll range around, I think the pass off of assignments in zone situations for the
Hmm.
Giants defense, that's
Hmm.
going to benefit a
Hmm.
rookie like whether it's Banks or it's Tre Hawkins
Hmm.
saying, I've got a veteran. So when I say I'm passing it off, the timing of that and the ability to commit more quickly to wherever you're supposed to be zone covering on the outside, to me, that comfort level is going to be incredibly different than if you had a Cordell Flott in there and you're saying, hey, we're all trying to figure this out. I don't think we can
Exactly.
undervalue Adoree Jackson's value for that young group.
No, you're right because the veteran there, he's going to make sure that they're in the right position for the most part, at least pre-snap. Look,
Yeah.
he's played that position, so he knows. And the other thing is, if for example, CD Lamb, because I believe he's going to pretty much be on CD Lamb for the most part of the game. So,
Yeah.
but if Dallas comes in with double tight end, don't think don't think Dory's coming off the field. Dory's staying on the
Yeah.
field, so he's going to take out one of the rookies. So Dory's just going to transition to whatever. If he's on the outside at that point in time, fine. If CeeDee Lamb is lined up on the outside, guess what's going to end up happening? He's going to bump one of the rookies off, and he's going to say, "I
Mhm.
got him. That's my man." So you know. I'm not too concerned. I think Adoree is well versed with his experience to get the guys in the right position, and also don't forget about Xavier. Xavier on the back end, he's going to do the same thing. So those two can help those cornerbacks as they transition, especially in their first game.
Do you think that it's more likely that in instances when if Adoree is shadowing CD Lamb and CD gets to the outside, that it's more likely that they might go to some type of zone coverage to help if it's a Deonte Banks that ends up in a slot scenario there, or you think they'll be willing to see those results of a Deonte Banks getting put on, getting caught on Cooks, and Cooks is on the inside and Gallup has moved to the outside, or if they're flexing the tight end into a receiver spot. Do you think there's a likely scheme adjustment that they're going to have ready for that? Or will they be willing to live with those results in the one-on-ones?
Depends on who it is that's going to be bumped inside and who he's going to be covering. If it's a
Right.
tight end, depending, I would assume you can probably stay a little bit more man because he has the speed to stay with him. But if it's a Cooks that's on the inside, then yeah, you probably kill a man coverage and go to some type of a zone concept. So.
Yeah, and that's what I think is going to be fascinating really early in the season for these young players specifically, getting a sense of where are they on the learning curve and how is Wink
Hmm.
trying to help them and also just help the defense overall. Let's turn over to Tre Hawkins, the
Hmm.
absolute surprise of the NFL draft.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think there's nothing that we saw in camp in preseason that says this guy is anything other than a starting outside corner. And I want him to go ahead and do it in a real NFL game, right? Because that is the only thing holding me back from getting completely over my skis on him. I'll relate him to a player that was drafted the year prior, or a couple years ago for the Seattle Seahawks in Riq Woolen. When he was in the draft, it was, oh, is he too big? He's 6'4". Can he had to move him to safety? And I watched his tape with my novice eye and said, this is a starting outside corner. He has the athleticism and the quickness and the speed to be able to do it. And I was desperate for the Giants to take him. I'll go back and remind myself who it was they took instead. It was probably a mistake. Doesn't matter who they are. It was probably a mistake. Is Tre Hawkins in that mold? I think he's a little bit bigger. I don't think he's as lean as a Riq Woolen, but that combination of enough speed and size really gets me excited about what the Giants are in conjunction with Banks being a physical corner as well. The Giants have not been that on the outside, and that's critical in a Wink Martindale system. You need
Hmm.
guys that are physical, can play hard football on the outside to set up everything that you want to have to be successful on that defense.
Well, Hawkins is in the same mold as Banks. Yes, he's physical. I think he's a little bit taller. I think Banks is more 6 foot 6'1". Hawkins is like around 6'3" ish, a little bit more
Mhm.
stockier. Great point. In comparison to when Seattle, drafted when they made their pick. So
Woolen,
yes,
yes,
it's
yes.
yeah, no, yes, Woolen. When he was coming out from UTSA, yes, I love that comparison. Woolen's faster though. I definitely will say
Mhm.
that 4.29 is definitely faster. So, but in terms of the transition, the growth, yes, I kind of feel the same way. Banks is physical. Now he's smooth with his hip transition. He's just there are some things he just definitely has to work on to be a little bit quicker. Same thing with Banks in terms of the getting beat inside outside. But the one thing that I think has helped them is our receivers because many I know everyone says we don't have a number one, but we have good receivers who have good quickness who are helping in their development and growth. And when you're going up against that in practice, that helps you in the long term. So that has helped Hawkins learn how to play the position, learn
Mhm.
how to funnel a receiver and understand, the one good thing about playing cornerback in the NFL, especially if you're in good phase, you actually have what I call an extra defender. It's called the sideline. And if
Mhm.
once you understand that, you know how to ride a receiver towards the sideline and cut off the space that he and the quarterback are trying to work with in terms of complete the pass. And I feel he does a good job there. He does a good job in getting the receiver towards the sideline. There are times in his jams and in his writing he is reaching a little bit more, but overall I think he's very good. Very good speed, good level of physicality, good size. And the one good thing that I love about him, he's not afraid to be there in the run game. He will come up and he will
Mm.
get physical in the run game, whether offensive lineman is coming to block him or he has to tackle a running back. He does a good job there, so I love it.
Yeah, it's a really good final note on him in terms of run support because when you look in this secondary, there are willing bodies, but the Giants are not a big secondary. They're not a big safety room. Those are guys that are lean. I think Pinnock, he might read a little bit bigger than he truly is. I feel like he's playing with wider shoulder pads than the typical guys back there, but he's the most physical, I think, in appearance. Xavier McKinney has the willingness. I don't know if that's the best use of him, right, on a down to down
Hmm.
situation for the Giants. Whereas Tre Hawkins, listen, if you're gonna flash run, I think that might be the one element that you don't worry about watching with a rookie
Hmm.
cornerback in camp. Now in a real game, you go, oh, there it is. You just closed and shut that down from being a 3 to 5 yard gain versus being a 7 to 10 yard gain. So the run
Exactly.
support is a secondary aspect that I think is probably going to be fascinating, not just for Hawkins, but for Banks, because there's a lot. You're asking two rookie
Hmm.
corners to
Hmm.
digest and do a lot inside of the Wink Martindale system. So, overall, how confident are you in this particular matchup for week one, starting two rookies on the outside? Do you feel like the Giants are going to stand up against that test? How frequently do you think we could be saying are the safeties getting over in time to help these rookie corners, especially on some of those deep routes with some of the speed that Dallas has?
I think Dallas initially are going to test what is out there to see, and of course, yes, the receivers are going to come back to the sideline and they're going to say, "Yeah, I'm getting him here, I'm getting him there.
Mhm.
He's in good position here." Coaches up top are also going to see that, and they're going to relay that information to Quinn. So, sorry, to McCarthy. So, this way he's going to identify what the best plays are to try and attack them. So, yes, they're going to try and attack them to see what they can do and what they can get away with. But, if they're in phase, I mean, does that, with Wink and his schemes, I think that, that's the other thing. Are we going to get good pressure on Prescott? Are we going to mix it up? Are we going to play a zone? What are you going to do? Are you going to see some of the exotic stuff that Wink is known for? Aziz and Kayvon, coming off the edge. That's the thing. Are we creating? Because I'm big on. I know most fans love sacks. As a coach, I love pressures and I love quarterback hits. I want to get into the quarterback's head because I don't want his eyes always downfield. I want his eyes to start just for a split second, looking and trying to feel more for the pressure and take away from his focus of getting that ball downfield, number one. And number two, if he tries to get the ball out too quickly, you're putting it in harm's way. And that's turnover opportunities because I love pressures and hits because I want turnovers. So, and if Banks and Hawkins can maintain their coverage, that can create the opportunities to get the hits, the pressures, and get the turnovers, and then of course the sacks. Yes,
We spent a couple of years ago, I remember Andy and I just trying to hammer home to fans that were saying Leonard Williams, he never gets home he
hmm
never gets the sacks, and it was, but everything else that he's doing that matters. This idea that only that one category, and he led the league, or was at least I think it was top 5 or 6 in pressures, and
hmm
all that is
hmm
moving the quarterback off his spot, changing the timing, changing the
hmm
rhythm. So all
hmm
those things have to work together. Obviously, when we talk about the season opener for the Giants taking on the Dallas Cowboys at home for a change instead of having to go down to Dallas to kick
hmm
off the season.
hmm
Um, Before we get out the door, I'm gonna say it, Coach G. I feel like we have come together here over these last 40 minutes talking about some of these key players for the Giants. Where can everybody find you in addition to over on Twitter? I know we have you at Coach Edd Gladney. You can follow him over there. And then you also have the YouTube channel where you're doing film breakdown and you're doing it obviously with some nice visual aids. You're really getting into that fine detail, walking it back and
hmm
forward to showcase to people really how everyone is executing on the field.
Well, on YouTube, you can look me up at Coach Ed Gladney's, and that's Ed with two D's, EDD. Coach Ed Gladney's Amazing World of Sports. You can tune in, different aspects of it's not just the pros. I do college. I'll be diving a little bit into high school. I really get into all that. And, if you want to listen, because I also have my own podcast that I do every two Wednesdays, 12 to 2. You can check me out there. It's through, you can look up on iHeart, iTunes, all that stuff. I'm old school, but it's through Shadow Worlds Radio Media, and that's Shadow Worlds WORLDZ. They do I send the podcast to them and they post it, and I'll do breakdowns there also. So I'm getting out there. I'm learning. I'm old school. Now, I mean,
Oh, listen.
I admit I'm in my 50s, so this medium is growing on me. But those are the best ways to catch me. So, and I
No, listen.
appreciate you for this opportunity, man. Thank you.
As you know, if you follow Big Dash knows, he's been on our podcast
Hmm.
as well. It's where I came across Coach G to start. And again, if you are a Giants fan or if you're a football fan, just taking in as much as possible is going to give you the best, most informed perspective when you go to watch any team or any game on Sundays. And that's why I want to make sure to have him on. So all of the places that you can find his YouTube, the podcast, that'll all be inside of the show notes here. Again, follow him over on Twitter. It really is, at least from my perspective, such a valuable addition to preparing to watch the Giants play football on Sundays, knowing some of these little things that we can look for. And we now have two key offensive and two key defensive players that we'll be watching there and hopefully feeling a little bit more informed about it as well. So, that being the case, really, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. We're hoping to do it again throughout the season and continue to give Giants fans a healthy perspective on all things Big Blue. Thanks again for making some time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Look forward to doing this again with you.